Hello class, good morning. So for today, our topic is all about essentials of host microorganism interactions. For this lesson, we're going to talk about the different ways on how our body will respond once a bacteria or microorganism enters our body. Okay? So in order for you to have an infection, there must be an interaction between the host and the microorganism. So anong ibig sabihin nito? For example, yung katabi mo merong ubo. So that is the example of a physical interaction or encounter between the microorganism and you. Kasi yung mikrobyo ng katabi mo, napupunta sa'yo, di ba? And then, once you inhale, then you're able to smell or inhale the microorganism. That is the part that the microorganism is going to colonize your host surface. Is going to colonize your nose. Okay? Once nasa nose mo na siya, it can now enter your body, it can invade your body and disseminate. It can go to your lower respiratory tract, causing infection. Kaya nga naman kinabukasan, anong outcome mo? Inuubo ka na rin, just like your classmate. Okay? So that's an example of an outcome or the stage on how the microorganism and host can interact. Now, where do you get those microorganisms? The sources of microorganism is what you call the reservoir. Okay? Ano ba ang reservoir? This is any source where the microorganism can replicate and thrive. Okay? Anong pinaka common na reservoir? That is the humans and animals, 'di ba? Kasi nga most of us we get sick from getting it from other people. That's why humans is also a reservoir. Pwede rin ng animals, right? Kapag kinagat ka ng aso or you're able to touch infected animal, then may chance na mahawa ka. Also, from the food, water, air, and soil, or from the environment, you can also get infected. Now, how do you get infected? Via transmission. It can be direct or indirect. When you say direct transmission, it means that you're able to, ano, sige. Okay, so kapag sabi mong direct transmission, it means that you're able to acquire a microorganism from another human serving as a reservoir. Nahawaan ka ng katabi mo. That's an example. For example, sa ospital, you touch a patient without gloves, di ba? Nag-extra ka ng blood na walang gloves. And then it turned out na yung kanyang skin, meron palang flesh-eating bacteria. That's an example of getting direct transmission. Ano pa? Sexual contact is direct transmission. You had an unprotected sex with someone with HIV, kaya nahawak ka. Okay, direct transmission yun. Another one is indirect. Kapag naman indirect, it means that you get the microorganism from intervening agents such as vectors and vehicles. Kapag vectors, that refers to ano yung mga vectors? Ito yung mga insects, di ba? Insects, animals. These are the arthropods na tinatawag natin, yung mga kumakagat na lamok, di ba? Kapag naman vehicle, ito yung mga non-living source of the microorganism tulad ng contaminated water, contaminated food, air, inanimate object, or what you call the fomites. Okay? So example of that is if you drink contaminated water, you might get cholera. Now, another one is the nosocomial infection. When you say nosocomial, these are what you call hospital-acquired infection. Most of the time, class, the people who get this are also the vulnerable patient in the hospital because they are the one with weak immune system. Now, next is the animal. How can you get infection from animals? The best example is getting rabies, di ba? If you got bitten by a dog or if you got scratched by a cat, possible na magka-rabies ka. That's an example. Ano pa? You touch the infected animal. Let's say, meron kang pusa na hinawakan and that cat is infected with toxoplasma. Then you might have toxoplasmosis, right? Okay? Or you got it indirectly through the bite of an insect vector. Example of that is getting dengue. Because actually, dengue class, the dengue virus, it actually propagates sa mga horses, 'di ba? Sa mga kabayo, right? So once the mosquito is able to bite the horse and is able to get the dengue, and then kinagat ka, that's how you can get infected, 'di ba? Ano pa? From contaminated food and water. Okay, possible din 'yon. And also, another one is what you call the zoonotic infection. So if the disease came from animals, that is zoonotic. Example is your rabies. So how do you protect yourself against those microorganisms? Now, having a strong barrier is very important. And the most important barrier of all is, of course, our skin. Okay? Now, our skin that serves as a physical barrier or the outer protective structure of our body against microorganisms. Having intact skin is a very important key. Okay? So, ano ba meron sa balat natin? Kasi una-una class, our skin naturally exfoliates. It has outer dermal layers that it exfoliates. That's why, kapag may kumapit sa'yo na microorganism, it will eventually be slouched off or nawawala din siya through exfoliation. Another one is the pH of the skin. It should be slightly acidic, right? Ngayon, kapag ikaw ay gumamit ng mga chemicals that can alter the pH of your skin, may effect ba yon? Yes, may effect yun, class. Tandaan nyo, class, our skin, it is a must that we have what they call a healthy normal flora sa ating mga balat. So lahat tayong tao, meron tayong mga bacteria sa ating skin. Now, if you disrupt the pH of the skin, what will happen? The normal flora population will also be disrupted. Masisira yung mga microbiome mo sa iyong balat, di ba? Yung mga normal flora mo masisira. Kapag nawala mga normal flora mo, what will happen? Pathogens can grow. Kasi class, sa katawan natin, meron talaga tayong bacteria. And those normal flora, they protect us by consuming the nutrients needed by other pathogens. Ngayon, kapag wala na yung mga normal flora at kinapitan ka ng pathogens, sobrang daming pagkain dyan, the pathogen can thrive in your body. Wala sila kakompetensya sa food kasi nawala yung normal flora mo. So what will happen sa skin mo kapag nasira yung pH? Magkakaroon ka ng skin irritation. What's an example of this one? Yung mga nagpapaganda, di ba? Yung mga gumagamit ng mga rejuvenating set na binabago yung pH ng skin nila. Yung iba naman nag-skin peeling. As in literal na yung upper layers of the skin nawawala, di ba? O disruption yun. That's why, as a side effect, nagkakaroon sila ng skin irritation. Okay? Another one is the hair follicles sa skin. The hair follicles, nandiyan yung mga sweat, acid, alcohol, and toxic lipids that can actually kill the microorganism. It has substances that can kill the microorganism. Another one is your eyes. The action of blinking, it can actually protect your eyes from microorganism. Also, tears, it contains lysozyme that can kill the microorganism. Okay? And you also have what you call the skin-associated lymphoid tissue that produces non-specific proteins that can actually kill microorganism. Okay? Now, on your mucous membrane, ano naman yung mucous membrane? Mucous membrane, this can be found in your nose, in your mouth, in your cheek, in your buccal cavity, saan pa? In your throat, in your intestine, in your esophagus, yan. Even in your female genital tract. Ayan, yan yung mga area kung saan meron kang mucosa or mucous membrane. Now, those mucous membrane, they have mucosal cell and goblet cells. And of course, the MALT or the mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue. Now, those mucosal cell, they produce mucus. It's very important, di ba? For slouching or removal of bacteria. Another one is that it can actually prevent bacterial penetration because of the thick consistency of the mucus. Another one is the goblet cells. Now, the goblet cells, it also produce mucus that produces, besides the mucus, gumagawa rin siya ng mga lysozymes, lactoferrin, lactoperoxidases. Those are antibacterial enzyme that is needed to kill microorganism. Okay, that's very important. Also, you have the MALT or the mucus-associated lymphoid tissue that produces antibodies against microorganism. The antibody is known as the IgA. So all of this can work together to protect yourself against microorganism. Now, what can make you vulnerable? If your skin is not intact, probably due to trauma or irritation in the mucous membrane by inhaling toxic chemicals or toxic fumes, having other diseases, childbirth, and overuse of antibiotics. All of this can contribute to the disruption of your physical barrier against microorganism. Next is the normal flora. Ano ba yung normal flora, class? Sabi ko nga kanina, kapag normal flora, these are the microorganisms that you need in your body. They must be there. Kailangan nandun sila. Kasi kapag nawala yung flora, wala na makikipag-compete sa food against sa food, against sa mga pathogen, 'di ba? So that's why yung pathogen, sila yung maraming pagkain, sila yung dadami, right? So kailangan mo ng flora. Now, your mouth, marami tayong flora dyan. Okay? Meron tayong mga streptococcus, meron tayong mga viridans. Besides the flora, the mouth also produces saliva and lysozyme enzyme that can actually kill some microorganism. Yung ating laway, meron yung antibacterial effect. Okay? Now, your lungs. Your lungs class, wala kang microorganism dapat dyan, di ba? Kasi pag nagka-microbic ka sa lungs, anong tawag doon? Pneumonia. Ano meron ka sa lungs? Meron kang mga defense mechanism such as macrophages. Ano ba ang macrophages? Macrophages, these are your white blood cell, your neutrophils, and also your monocyte that can kill the bacteria by engulfing it or performing phagocytosis. Okay? So technically, macrophages are phagocytes as well. Kapag sa dugo, ang tawag sa kanila ay phagocyte, pero kapag nasa tissue sila or lungs, ang tawag sa kanila ay macrophages. But it's still the same blood cell, neutrophil and monocyte. Mga white blood cell din yan na kumakain ng mga bacteria. Now, your stomach, it has a very low pH, di ba? It has hydrochloric acid and enzymes that can kill microorganism. Wala ka rin dapat bacteria sa stomach mo. Saan tayo maraming bacteria? Sa intestine. Particularly on the colon, wherein, or the large intestine, wherein nariyan ng ating mga E. coli. Okay? Besides the E. coli, we also have the lactobacillus. Bakit importante sila E. coli at sila lactobacillus sa ating intestine? Because class, unang-una, lactobacillus, it produces lactic acid that actually regulates the pH of your intestine. Now, kapag nagkaroon ng disruption ng pH ng intestine at nawala si lactobacillus, what will happen? Other microorganism will propagate. It can lead to diarrhea. Kaya ka nagtatae. Okay? At kapag nawala din si E. coli sa intestine mo, wala nang kakompetensya yung mga pathogen sa food. That's why the pathogen can thrive very well. Kaya ka nagtatae din. Right? Yan ang reason. That's why the bacteria in your colon is very important. Okay? Now, how about the female genital tract? The female genital tract, yes, it must have bacteria. Kailangan talaga ng bacteria sa female genital tract. At ang kailangan nila is the lactobacillus. Bakit kailangan ng lactobacillus ng mga babae? Kasi classic produces lactic acid that keeps the pH slightly acidic. Kailangan acidic ang pH ng female genital tract. Kasi nga class, kapag hindi yan acidic, anong mangyayari? What will happen? Okay? What happen is that the other bacteria can propagate, such as the Gardnerella, Bacteroides, and other harmful microorganism. Yung mga harmful bacteria na yun, they can cause a condition known as bacterial vaginosis, wherein the females, they're going to have fishy odor discharge. And then they're going to have irritation on their vagina. Okay? Causal irritation, fishy odor discharge, and technically, meron silang infection. Okay? Kaya kailangan laging merong lactobacillus ang female genital tract. For the bladder naman, wala dapat bacteria yan. Ang bladder natin, wala dapat. Kapag nagka-bacteria yan, meron kang UTI, di ba? Now, the bladder protects yourself against microorganism by flushing out the bacteria in the urethra. I mean, flushing out the urine in the urethra. So kapag umiihi ka, yung bacteria mo sa urethra, na-flush out yan. Ang another one, dapat ba meron kang bacteria sa urethra? The answer is no. Wala ka dapat bacteria sa urethra mo. Okay? Kasi kapag nagka-bacteria ka sa urethra, what will happen? You're going to have UTI. By the way, saan kaya nagagaling ang bacteria sa urethra? Ba't ka nagkaka-bacteria doon? That happens because of your wrong way of washing your genitals after you defecate. Kasi class, most of the time, ang cause ng UTI is Escherichia coli, E. coli, di ba? Saan nagagaling E. coli? Nagagaling yan sa iyong intestine, sa colon. Right? So kapag dumudumi ka, then hindi proper ang paghugas mo, napupunta yung E. coli saan? Sa urethra mo. Kaya ka nagkakaroon ng UTI. So, technically class, E. coli in your intestine. If it stays in your intestine, it is not a problem. Kasi nga, normal flora siya. But if the flora goes to another part of your body, that's the time that they will become a pathogen. Tulad na example ko kanina, di ba? Yung E. coli mo, nagaling din sa puwet mo, napunta sa urethra mo. Kaya ka nagkaroon ng UTI. Okay, ano pa example dyan? Kunyari, yung mga streptococcus mo dito sa nasopharynx, di ba? Sabi ko kanina, sa mouth, sa nasopharynx, marami kang bakterya dyan. Kapag yung bakterya mo dyan bumaba sa lungs, anong mangyayari? Magkakaroon ka ng pneumonia. Right? Pero kung narayan lang sila sa nasopharynx mo, hindi sila problem. Okay? So that's also one way on how you can get infected coming from your own bacteria. Okay? Yun. So also, we have a term called transient colonizers wherein this microorganism, they're able to survive. Okay? They're able to survive, but they do not multiply on the surface. So ano lang nangyayari sa kanila? Okay. Okay, class. Again, kapag trachy colonizers, ang ibig sabihin noon, again, they're able to survive on the surface of your body, but they do not multiply. Bakit sila nawawala ng kusa? Kasi nga, through natural exfoliation. Okay? But if you have a resident microbiota, these are microorganisms that can survive, but also thrive and multiply. Okay? Example of that is your lactobacillus in your body. So, let's talk about pathogenicity and virulence. When you say pathogenicity, anong ibig sabihin noon? When you say that it is a pathogen, it means that's a microorganism that has the ability to cause disease. Kaya nga tinawag na pathogen, di ba? But when you say pathogenicity, that refers to the virulence reflect the degree which the by which the organism is capable of causing disease. Ibig sabihin ng class, when you say pathogenicity, the effect of the disease will depend on the virulence factor. Ano ba yung mga virulence factor niyang class? When you say virulence factors, these are the different characteristics of the bacteria that can cause disease to humans. Ano example niyan? Example of virulence factors are having a capsule, di ba? Yung di-discuss ko last time. Ano pa? Attachment structure tulad ng fimbriae. Those are example of virulence factors. Ano pa? Yung mga plasmid, di ba, that has antibiotic resistance. Because if the bacteria has a very high virulence factor, the pathogenicity is also high. Ibig sabihin noon, kapag mataas ang virulence, ano mangyayari sa pasyente? Magkakaroon siya ng severe infection. Pero if the virulence is low, the patient is going to have infection, but it is only moderate to mild. So the virulence, it actually tells you what is the severity of the infection. Kaya tinawag siyang measure degree of pathogenicity of an organism. It can tell you, will it cause severe infection? Will it cause mild or moderate? Okay? And then the effect of the virulence is termed as pathogenicity, wherein this is the ability of the organism to cause disease. Okay? So, an organism with high pathogenicity is very likely to cause disease. Kaya nga possible magkaroon ka ng severe infection. Whereas, kapag low pathogenicity, pwedeng hindi ka magkasakit or meron ka lang mild to moderate infection. Okay? And then sometimes, we also have what you call the opportunistic pathogen. When you say opportunistic, these are microorganisms that are normally found in our body. Normally, they are not pathogens. However, class, if your immune system became weak, or let's say nagkaroon ka ng HIV, ng cancer or diabetes, this opportunistic pathogen, they can actually cause infection to you. Kasi nga, sobrang hina ng immune system mo, you cannot control the effect of that microorganism at all. Okay? Now, next is the virulence factors. So for the virulence factors, these are the example. You have attachment. Again, an example ng attachment natin, that is the fimbriae, di ba? That is the structure of the bacteria enables them to attach to the host surface. Ano pa? Yung kanyang outer membrane. That's an example of attachment factors. Okay? Next is the invasion. Kapag invasion, it means that the bacteria can disseminate throughout your body. They do this by producing different enzymes, such as hyaluronidase enzyme, that can actually spread the bacteria. Okay? Ano pa? They can survive against inflammation in your immune system. Ibig sabihin ng class, there are some bacteria that can actually evade phagocytosis. Tulad ng mga bacteria with capsule. Okay? They can also evade your immune system wherein they can evade your antibodies. Pwede na lang labanan yung mga antibodies mo tulad ng IgA, IgM, and IgG. Okay? Some of them can also produce toxin. Meron dalawang klaseng toxin yan. You have the endotoxin and the exotoxin. Endotoxin is much more problematic because it can actually cause septic shock, hypotension, and death. Nakakatakot siya, di ba? Besides that, it can also cause clotting and high fever, right? And you can see that sa gram-negative bacteria. And then, kapag naman exotoxin, this is more seen in gram-positive bacteria. They are released by living bacteria but they do not require bacterial cell death for release. Yun ang difference nila ni endotoxin. Sa endotoxin, sinisira niya talaga yung mga cells. Okay? Sinisira niya yung mga cells. However, si exotoxin does not require cell death for it to be released. So the release is continuous. Okay? And it has specific target cells lang. Doon lang siya pwedeng mag-cause ng harm sa kanyang mga specific cells. Pero kapag endotoxin, it causes harm on almost all of the cells in your body. That is their main difference. Okay? Ano pa? Some bacteria can also form biofilms. When you say biofilms, these are very thick layers of microorganism. They form communities of microorganism that attaches to each other and adhere to each other. Next is the outcome of the disease. So ano magiging outcome, di ba? Um, well, for it to have an outcome, again, kailangan mo na magkaroon ng interaction between the host and the microorganism. And there are different factors that can contribute to that. If the host is very healthy, if the host does not have any underlying condition, wala siyang HIV, walang diabetes, walang cancer, then the chances of getting infected is low. Kasi nga, you have a very strong immune system. But if the host is immunocompromised, okay, plus the level of virulence from the microorganism is very high, that will make a perfect condition for the microorganism to attack the host. Okay? Another one is what you call the number of organism introduced into the host, or what you call the bioburden. When you say bioburden, ito yung level of microorganism in the body. If the bioburden is very high, definitely the chances of getting infected is very high as well. Okay? In terms of the host, kailangan meron ka talagang intact skin or integrity of the surface defenses. Kasi kapag meron kang mga wound, infected wound, open wound, infected wound, di ba? It can lead to getting more infections kasi binibigyan mo ng access yung microorganism sa katawan mo. Okay? So if a disease happen, what will happen? Ano magiging effect niyan? Ito yung possible na effect niya. You can have restoration of the host to complete health. Ibig sabihin noon, gagaling ka. Example nito, yung nagkaubo ka lang, tas after 2 days, okay ka na. Diba? Walang nangyaring masama, right? Or restoration of host to health with its residual effect. Meaning, nag-undergo ka sa chronic infection. Kasi class, kapag nagkaroon ka ng infection, nagsisimula mo na yan sa acute infection. Usually, class, kapag acute infection, you have to clear the disease in less than 1 week. Dapat gumaling ka na. But kapag more than 1 week na, hindi ka pa rin gumagaling, it can lead to latency period. Kapag latency, ibig sabihin, walang symptoms muna. Then after a few years, it can enter the chronic stage, wherein you're going to have other complications pa. Example of that is the hepatitis infection. Kapag ikaw ay na-infect ng HEPA ngayon, acute HEPA yan. Dapat maklear mo siya within 6 months. Pag di mo siya na-clear within 6 months, it can enter the chronic period. Okay? You can enter the latency. Mag-latency ka muna for about 2 to 5 years. After 2 to 5 years, magkakaroon ka ng chronic HEPA that can lead to liver cancer. Okay? So that's an example of restoration of host health to residual effect. Okay? Another one is survival of the host with health severely compromised. Ibig sabihin noon, nagkaroon ka ng disability. For example, surviving leptospirosis. Let's say naka-leptospirosis ka. Then you're able to get severe infection ng leptospirosis. Anong effect ng leptospirosis? It can actually invade your kidneys. So what happened to you? Naka-leptospirosis ka, nasira ang kidney mo, yung left kidney mo, na, loss of function na. So ilang kidney na lang naiwan sa'yo, isang kidney na lang, di ba? Right? So kapag isa na lang yung kidney mo, is that good? Hindi, di ba? Syempre, yun, much better kung dalawa yung kidney mo. Although, you can survive with one kidney. However, of course, having two kidneys is much better than having one, right? That's an example of survival with host, health severely compromised. Okay? And of course, other example is death. Mamamatay ka. Those are the possible outcomes. Now, what is the difference between signs and symptoms? Kapag signs, tandaan yung class, these are measurable factor. For example, the temperature, yung fever niya nasa 38 degrees Celsius, di ba? Yung color ng kanyang skin, it's pale, di ba? Yung kanyang skin, mayroong mga red rashes or there are blotchy patches on the skin. Okay? Anything that you can describe or see, you can quantify, okay? You can measure. Those are the signs. Kapag naman, symptoms, okay? Kapag symptoms, these are the described feelings coming from the patient. Let's say, kasi nga 38 yung kanyang fever, yun yung kanyang signs. 38 degrees Celsius yung kanyang fever, yun ang signs. Pag tinanong mo yung pasyente, anong naramdaman mo? Sabihin niya, masakit ang ulo ko. That's the symptoms. Kasi nga meron siyang fever, di ba? So example is the headache, aches, fatigue, and nausea. So that's an example of a symptom. Okay? Now, the signs and symptoms, this is important to assess. Kapag doktor na kayo, you really have to assess this in order for you to reflect the stages of the infection. In turn, the stages of infection will reflect the stages in the host as well. Okay? Now, next is the corresponding infectious disease stages. So, nagsisimula muna lahat sa incubation stage. When you say incubation, this is the part where you have no signs and symptoms at all. So, tuwing kailan ito nangyayari? This happen usually, for example, dengue, di ba? Kung ikaw ay nagka-dengue ngayon, let's say may lagnat ka ngayon, di ba? Kailan ka ba kinagat ng lamok? Kinagat ka ng lamok 3 to 7 days ago. Okay? So, 3 to 7 days ago, wala kang sintomas kasi nga naman, that is the incubation period wherein the microorganism is just starting to propagate at paparami pa lang siya sa katawan mo. Since your body, they have an immune system, kaya hindi mo nararamdaman yung sakit. Okay? So, that is the incubation stage. However, kapag dumating yung time na ang dami na ng microorganisms sa katawan mo, hindi na kaya ng immune system mo, you're going to have the first signs and symptoms. That is what you call the prodromal stage. So, meron ka ng lagnat. And this time, you are highly communicable. Nakakahawa ka during the prodromal. After that, you're going to have the peak of the symptoms or the clinical stage. Let's say may dengue ka nga. Ano ang peak niyan? Ang peak is kapag ikaw ay meron ng bleeding, nagdudugo ka na because of the dengue, di ba? Yan. So, you have a peak of the characteristics, signs, and symptoms of infection of disease. That is the clinical stage. After the clinical stage, dalawang possible na mangyari. Possible is the symptoms can subside and the host can improve. So, pwedeng pagaling ka na. Pwedeng nalabanan mo yung infection at pagaling ka na. Or, the condition of the host becomes worse. So, sa dengue nga, mag-enter ka na sa hypotension and shock. Okay? Bababa na yung blood pressure mo, you enter shock. Yan ang stage of decline. And then, convalescent stage. Kapag poor prognosis ka, hindi naging maganda yung respond mo, at talagang nag-lead ka sa deterioration ng health mo, possible na ikaw ay mamatay. It can lead to death. Or, kapag umigi yung sintomas mo, hindi ka naman naging mas malala pa, then you're going to have full recovery. You're going to survive the infection. That happens during the convalescent stage. Okay? How do you prevent diseases? Vaccination is very important, class. And prophylaxis, right? So, meron tayong dalawang klase ng vaccine. You have the active vaccine and the passive vaccine. Among the two, alin dyan yung much more effective? Actually, class, both of them are effective naman. But it depends on what you're fighting at. Take note that passive immunization, you're only given antibodies. Now, once the antibody has now been consumed, let's say, tinusukan ka nga ng vaccine na antibody lang, tapos na-expose ka doon sa microorganism. The antibody will be consumed. Kapag naubos na yon, wala ka ng protection. Diba? That's why passive immunization is short-lived. Yung kanyang effect, short time lang. Pwedeng 6 months lang to 1 year. Ito example ng mga passive immunization. Pero kapag active immunization kasi class, you are being given the antigen. When you say antigen, that is the protein coming from the bacteria or the microorganism. So, ang ini-inject sa'yo, yung bahagi ng mikrobyo. Okay? That's why, since you have the part of the microorganism injected in you, your body will continuously produce antibodies. gagawa ng antibody. Okay? Now, that's why if you get exposed, it's okay. Since you have the antibodies, pwede maglabanan yung infection. Plus, you have extra antibodies pa rin na naka-line up just in case next time ma-expose ka ulit. Kaya nga class, kapag active immunization, some of the effect can be lifetime. Pwede magkaroon ka ng lifetime immunity. Yung iba naman, aabot ng 10 years ang effect. Diba? That's an example of active immunization. So for the active, it is long-lasting. Kapag naman passive, it is only short-lasting lang. Okay? Kapag prophylaxis, ano yan? Prophylaxis, these are antibiotics you take kapag na-expose ko sa microorganism habang wala ka pang sintomas. Example of that is during the flood season. Let's say, baha, tapos meron kang sugat and then lumusong ka sa baha. You have to take doxycycline. Para saan yan? That is a prophylaxis against leptospirosis. Okay? Kasi nga naman class, madumi ang tubig baha, di ba? So bago ka magka-leptospirosis, inom mo na ng gamot na doxycycline para hindi siya mag-progress kung meron man. Kasi class, again, tandaan mo, ang leptospirosis, ang target niya ay kidneys, your kidney. It can actually destroy your kidney. Delikado yun. Pwede mo ikamatay, right? Now, what are the other strategies to prevent infection? Una-una, prevent the transmission. Siyempre, avoid direct contact with the patient. Okay? Take protective measures. You wear your PPE. Diba? Also, use sterile medical techniques. Another one is controlling the reservoir. When you say reservoir, again, ito yung mga pinamumugaran ng mikrobyo. Diba? So, you may clean the area, sanitize, treat the sewage, preserve the food, water treatment, and all. And of course, you have to minimize your risk by getting vaccinated or using prophylaxis. And of course, applying disinfectant on area na exposed. Okay? Yun. So that is the lesson for today. That is all about essentials of host microorganism interaction.